Do you know that sometimes a person's selfishness and greed can grow so much that their intellect becomes corrupt? They can no longer distinguish between right and wrong. This is the moment when horrific crimes are committed. Today, I will tell you about an incident that shattered the lives of 2 children, their future, family, and everything they had. Hello, friends. How are you all? Today, we are going to discuss the Rajesh Gautam case. The story begins in the well-known city of Kanpur, Uttar Pradesh. In Kanpur, there is a locality called Dali Sujanpur, and within that area lies a smaller locality known as Koila Nagar. In Koila Nagar, there was a house where a family lived. The head of this family was Rajesh Gautam. His wife was Urmila Gautam, and they had 2 sons who were school-going kids. Rajesh Gautam was considered one of the wealthiest and most prosperous men in the area. He owned vast amounts of land in different locations, amounting to a total property value of rupee 45 crore. Some of this wealth was inherited, while some he earned himself. By profession, he was a government school teacher at the junior high school in Sarsan Block, Kanpur. However, this job was merely a pastime for him. With his inheritance and assets, he didn't really need to work. Apart from teaching, Rajesh was also involved in part-time real estate and property dealing. One of his daily habits was going for a morning walk, often taking his 2 children along. Sometimes they walked in the park, and other times on the road. Everyone in the neighborhood knew him and regarded him highly. Now, let's come to the date November 4th, 2023. It was a chilly winter morning. The roads were nearly deserted, with few people or vehicles around. Between 5:30 and 6 a.m., Rajesh Gautam left his house for his usual morning walk. However, on this day, his children didn't accompany him. As Rajesh strolled, he reached the Swarn Jayanti Vihar area, which wasn't far from his home. The time was 6:27 am. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a speeding car appeared and hit Rajesh with tremendous force. The collision was so severe that people nearby heard a loud noise, as if a bomb had exploded. Rajesh was flung about 20 feet away, landing near a tree where his head struck some stones. His arms and legs also suffered deep injuries. The car that hit him was moving at such high speed that it became uncontrollable after the accident and collided with a pole. A car collided, and one of its tires burst. The driver of the car got out and fled. On one side of the road, Rajesh Gautam lay unconscious, bleeding profusely from his head. On the other side, the car that caused the accident had crashed into a pole and was stationary. Some people witnessed the incident with their own eyes. These eyewitnesses immediately ran to help the injured man. They recognized him as Rajesh Gautam, a local resident. Someone informed Rajesh's elder brother, Brahmden Gautam, about the accident. Coincidentally, Rajesh's nephew, Navy Officer Kuldeep Gautam, was also on leave and staying at home on that same day, November 4th. Just 2 minutes after arriving home, Kuldeep learned about the accident involving his uncle. Both the elder brother and nephew rushed to the scene, but by the time they arrived, the police were already there, and Rajesh had been taken to the hospital. At the hospital, the family received the devastating news that Rajesh had passed away. His body was sent for post-mortem examination. The tragedy left everyone in shock. When Rajesh's wife learned of his death in the road accident, she broke down, overwhelmed by grief. The household was plunged into mourning. Rajesh left behind 2 young children, raising concerns about their future and upbringing. Eyewitnesses told the police that a car had hit Rajesh and then collided with a pole. However, no one had paid much attention to the driver. Everyone had rushed to Rajesh's aid instead. It was clearly a case of a road accident, and the police filed it as such. Kuldeep Gautam, the Navy officer, found it hard to accept the incident as a mere accident. He pondered, why was the car moving so recklessly early in the morning? Rajesh wouldn't have been walking in the middle of the road. It was empty. Even if the car was speeding, it could have just passed straight. Why did the driver suddenly swerve and hit him deliberately? Adding to the mystery, the car's number plate turned out to be fake. Kuldeep found this suspicious and decided to investigate on his own. Instead of solely relying on the police, he searched for CCTV cameras along the route. After examining footage from several locations, he noticed something unusual. A white Maruti Suzuki Wagoner was parked a few meters away from the accident site. As Rajesh passed by, the wagoner started moving and began following him at a slow speed. Gradually, it sped up, overtook him, made a U-turn, and came back. Then, it started following him again. Suddenly, a dark-colored Maruti Suzuki entered the scene, and the accident occurred. Initially, everyone, including Rajesh's wife, believed it to be an accident. However, as more details emerged, it started to appear more like a premeditated murder. When Rajesh's wife learned this, she went straight to the Additional Deputy Commissioner of Police ADP office. There, she accused Rajesh's elder brother and nephew of orchestrating the incident, alleging that they wanted to take over his property. Rajesh was part of a WhatsApp group consisting of his batchmates and friends, many of whom were high-ranking officials like IAS, PCS, and IPS officers. Rajesh's wife, Urmila, shared the news of his death in this group. His friends quickly rallied and pressured the police to speed up the investigation. 4 separate teams were formed to handle various aspects of the case. One team was assigned to analyze CCTV footage for clues, while another focused on questioning family members. Another team examined call details, and a 4th team worked to locate the vehicle involved in the incident. Rajesh had 3 brothers, and all of them were well settled. There had never been disputes over property among them. Their father had evenly divided the property among his children before his death. Even after his passing, the brothers lived harmoniously. Rajesh himself was a government teacher and also involved in property dealings. His brothers revealed that Rajesh had recently planned to develop his vacant lands into residential apartments or houses. For this, he had sought an experienced architect and contractor. Through his WhatsApp group, Rajesh found Hemant Songkar, a batchmate and contractor. Hemant introduced Rajesh to his relative, Shailendra Songkar, an architect. Together, they began construction on Rajesh's land in Sujanpur in 2021. Hemant later got selected as a constable through the Public Service Commission and handed over the project to Shailendra. Meanwhile, police investigations revealed that the same Wagoner car seen in the footage was registered in Kanpur. Details of all Wagoner owners in Kanpur were retrieved from the RTO office, and each owner was questioned. In the course of the investigation, Rajesh's brothers mentioned that he had fallen ill a few months earlier and was hospitalized. Doctors revealed that Rajesh had consumed a high dose of poison, either unknowingly or through foul play. He had recovered, but this incident suggested that plans to harm him had been in motion for months. The police began suspecting Rajesh's wife, Urmila, and Shailendra Songkar. It was found that Shailendra frequently visited Rajesh's home, especially when Rajesh was away. He would often spend hours inside the house, raising suspicions of an internal conspiracy. The investigation continued to gather evidence against all suspects. They also retrieved Urmila's call details and location history. Before the incident, they checked who she had spoken to and what her location was. It was found in the call records that Urmila had frequent conversations with Shailendra via WhatsApp web. When Rajesh Gautam's road accident happened, apart from his location, Urmila and Shailendra's locations were also the same. This means that both were present at the scene during the murder. The police discovered all this when the nephew got hold of CCTV footage, which raised doubts that it was indeed a murder. A few days later, Urmila falsely accused that her husband's murder was planned by his elder brother and nephew for property. But before this, she had never accused anyone. She always said it was a road accident. The police first arrested Shailendra Songkar, a contractor or mason living on Old Shivli Road in Jagatpuri. Then Urmila Gautam was arrested. After that, Shailendra's cousin brother, Vikas Songkar, was also arrested. He was the one driving the Wagner vehicle. Another man, Sumit Kathuria, who was the driver of the eco car that hit Gautam, was also involved. Sumit was on the run, but the other 3 suspects were found by the police. When the police showed some strictness to these 3, they broke down and confessed. They narrated how they planned the entire incident and why they did it. When Rajesh Gautam started building a new house in Delhi Sujanpur, Shailendra was working as a contractor there. Since he was a contractor, he had to visit Rajesh's house for various work-related reasons, sometimes to discuss money or building materials. As Rajesh was at school all day, Urmila handled everything at home. Urmila used to manage things in such a way that she eventually met Gautam and Shailendra Songkar. Slowly, they began talking to each other. Their conversations progressed, and soon they started talking over the phone. Eventually, they fell in love. Rajesh used to spend most of his time outside the house. He spent his days at school, worked as a property dealer, and took care of other tasks, returning home late at night. Due to this, he had no idea what was happening at home initially. Urmila, aware of Rajesh's schedule when he stayed home and when he was out and knowing the children would be at school, used to invite Shailendra to the house. Shailendra, under the pretext of construction work, would visit her at home. Earlier, Rajesh Gautam, his wife, and children lived somewhere else. In June 2023, they moved to a new house in Koila Nagar. In their previous neighborhood, the neighbors were quite close-knit. In such a setting, if an outsider frequently visited their home and stayed inside for long hours, it was bound to attract attention. This is how Rajesh came to know about Shailendra visiting his home during his absence. One day, he warned Shailendra, saying, "Don't visit the house. Whatever is needed for the construction work, call me and I'll arrange it. There's no need to come to the house." Shailendra agreed, and Rajesh also advised his wife not to allow anyone inside the house as people talk and create rumors. Despite this, Shailendra continued meeting Urmila. Rajesh settled all pending payments with the mason and finalized everything, saying there was no need for him to come anymore. Shailendra was removed from the work. However, he continued speaking to Urmila daily over the phone, often via video calls. Eventually, they both began to think indirectly that Rajesh Gautam was becoming an obstacle in their love. They discussed removing him from their path forever. Once they realized their thoughts were aligned, they openly talked about killing Rajesh. If Urmila wanted, she could have divorced her husband and married the mason, but she also wanted Rajesh's money along with her love. If she opted for a divorce, she would lose the money. Police investigations revealed that Urmila's parents were against the idea of divorce. When the police questioned Urmila's mother, she denied that Urmila ever expressed such intentions. Urmila and Shailendra planned to make Rajesh's death look like an accident. Shailendra first procured poison and gave it to Urmila, who mixed it into her husband's food. As soon as Rajesh ate the food, he fell sick. Thinking this was the end, Urmila assumed their problem was solved. However, Rajesh's relatives rushed him to the hospital, saving his life. At that time, no one suspected Urmila. Everyone believed it was an act of someone who harbored enmity, perhaps poisoning him out of spite. Their first plan failed. Next, they planned to hire contract killers. Shailendra found the killers and fixed a deal for rupee 5 lakhs. There were 2 contract killers, and they demanded full payment in advance to carry out the task. Urmila sold some of her jewelry to arrange the money, and Shailendra gave rupee 5 lakhs to the killers. The killers, after taking the money, disappeared. Days passed, and Shailendra tried contacting them, but there was no trace. Realizing they had been duped, Shailendra and Urmila couldn't complain to the police, fearing arrest for hiring contract killers. On June 10, 2023, the Gautam family performed the housewarming ceremony for their new home. During this time, Rajesh frequently traveled on the highway. Urmila devised a sinister plan to have her husband struck by a truck on the highway. She even hired someone for the job. However, this time, they were more cautious after being cheated in the earlier scheme. They told the truck driver that payment would only be made after the task was completed. The driver, however, refused to go through with it. Frustrated, they decided to take matters into their own hands and kill Rajesh themselves. After days of planning, they concluded that staging a road accident would be the perfect way to eliminate him without raising suspicion, as road accidents are common occurrences. Urmila identified the best time for the murder, early morning, when Rajesh would be out for his daily walk. She reasoned that the roads would be less crowded, and the task could be carried out with ease. However, they couldn't use their own vehicle for the crime. Urmila and her accomplice purchased a second-hand Maruti car from Kalyampuri. Her brother-in-law, Vikas Sonkar, was enticed by Shailendra with promises that, after Rajesh's death, the entire property would be theirs, and they could start a business together. The plan was set. Every detail was meticulously decided who would do what and how it would all unfold. The chosen day was November 4th, 2023. The cold weather meant fewer people were out for morning walks. However, Rajesh, a man of routine, went out daily, regardless of the weather, often accompanied by his children. Ermila did not want her children harmed in the process, so she devised a way to keep them home. That morning, when Rajesh prepared for his walk, Ermila suggested he leave the children behind, citing the elder son's need to study and the younger son's ill health. The elder son, however, insisted on going and got ready to leave. Unbeknownst to Rajesh, his son started following him. Ermila stopped the boy and locked him in the bathroom. Since the latch didn't work from the outside, she held the door shut until Rajesh had left. The child began crying, so Ermila eventually released him and sent him to the terrace to skate. After ensuring Rajesh had left, Ermila called Shailendra to inform him. Sumit Kathuria got into the Maruti car, while Vikas drove a Wagoner with Shailendra inside. They picked up Ermila as they wanted to witness the murder firsthand. They already knew the route Rajesh would take and waited there. Sumit parked a few kilometers away, switched cars, and joined the Wagoner. Before the murder news broke, Ermila returned home. Each accomplice went to their respective places. Ermila later went to the ADP office, claiming she suspected her brother-in-law and nephew. However, during questioning, she grew nervous and left abruptly. She then switched off her phone and disappeared with her children, further arousing police suspicion. Ermila eventually fled to her sister-in-law's house. When she and Shailendra were caught, they attempted to poison themselves, hoping to evade the consequences, but failed. Thus, a wife's greed for money and a lover led to her husband's murder. Rajesh's children lost their father, and their mother ended up in jail, leaving them alone. Rajesh's elder brother promised to take care of the children, ensuring their education and upbringing. Meanwhile, Sumit Kathuria remains at large, despite several police teams being formed to capture him. His name has been linked to criminal activities before. The police have yet to provide an update on his whereabouts. The case is still under trial. That concludes this story. Share your thoughts in the comments, like and share this video, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on the bell icon. See you in the next video. Thank you.